All right, we finally have this thing going now, or what? That was a lot more difficult than it needed to be. Anyways, my friends, we're here once again. Are we? Are we? All right. Looks like I am live. Well, that's about damn time. So, anyways, my friends, it's time to have a discussion again about things that matter. And we're going through some crazy stuff right now, sort of, I guess. A lot of people have been asking me to do another live. So here I am. I usually don't wear glasses, but I do when I read. So anyways, this is Beau talking with Beau. Hope everybody's having a beautiful day today. I hope things are great. And I wanted to run through a few things that are pretty important to discuss. And this is actually, I'm going to talk about Minneapolis with Tom Homan. I'm going to talk about biolabs. And I'm also going to talk about a multi-state drug trafficking case. And I'm also going to discuss an Ohio man accused of threatening to kill random ICE officers and President Trump. We also have some other things to discuss as well, having to do with polling, because that seems to be a lot of information that people on the right now, they're like, what's going on with polling? We also have things going on with the UN agency, basically the globalist cabal, WEF, and all of that stuff. So we're going to talk about some of those things. But the first thing I want to talk about, and this is important, is Tom Homan in Minneapolis. A lot of people are like, kind of like upset, thinking that we have been handed a defeat with what's going on in Minneapolis. And basically what's happened is the optics, and optics is something very important in politics as far as public perception. So the American people have made it very clear they do not like the tactics that were deployed in Minneapolis with the armed agents. So that is being scaled back. Now, I've had some couple of conflicting replies to video uploads I've made from my walking videos, and I would like to address those for a second. One of them being the very apparent withdrawal of 700 officers out of Minneapolis. People are taking that as a retreat. And what that is Tom Homan had reached an agreement with Minneapolis law enforcement, as well as the prisons there, to finally, what they should have done in the beginning, is to turn over criminals when they get them. And when you do that, you don't need to have an entourage of 14 to 17 guys protecting the team of ICE officers effecting an arrest with a warrant. So you can take all of those people off the street, which is why they withdrew those, because now they're going to be able to pick them up at jails. A deal was reached, and that is happening. I also saw a video of live arrest, well, not live, but broadcast shortly after ICE arrests in Minneapolis yesterday and today. So they are still doing arrests. And I also want to clarify that about 4,000 people statewide in Minneapolis criminal aliens have been arrested. So Tom Homan is toning down how it looks, the optics. And so basically, polling shows that the amount of people that want deportations still exists. They just are bringing down that optics of it because the public doesn't like it. And there have been a couple instances that I was like, well, this is what we voted for. Sometimes it's hard to watch, and I understand why people don't like seeing it. And I think it's a wise idea to retract from that and to have like a new start with that. But basically, they were drawing ICE officers deployed because now they're being turned over. You can have one, maybe two ICE officers show up, pick up the prisoner, rather than having that whole team I talked about. So that's really important to acknowledge that that is what's happening. And also, after withdrawing 700 officers, they are still doing arrests. And you should keep in mind, this is for Minneapolis. Okay, they're not withdrawing from everywhere around the country. In fact, arrests in places like New Orleans, Kentucky, Tennessee, places like that are still going on. They've had great success with that. So just in Minnesota, 4,000 plus have been arrested. So that's a big number. And in Maine here, they have halted operations, the military, paramilitary style operations. But ICE is still doing what they've always done, and they're going to be coming here, and they are here, and they're arresting people. So this stuff is still going on. And you may have seen a walk I was on recently where on a telephone pole, I saw this sign. It says, "No ice for me." So I ripped it off the pole. But, those are the kind of things we have to deal with. So anyway, Tom Homan's doing a good job. They're settling things down. Things will be fine. Now, another thing that happened, a drug trafficking bust in Georgia involving fentanyl and linked to communist China. So the Chinese Communist Party is well rooted in the United States, like ticks on a dog, and we're going to have to pluck them. We've had many marijuana grows in Maine busted. Those are still happening as well. We have had human trafficking things busted in Maine. A Chinese restaurant here was closed. The owner of that was running a drug trafficking as well as human trafficking. And these women basically were enslaved to the Communist Party. They were here illegally and being worked for sex. So those arrests were made. The business was shut down. And now we are seeing things like this arrest and bust in Georgia involving fentanyl linked to communist China. And it was an FBI Atlanta investigation led by the agents in the Brunswick Resident Agency. It found that members of the group were traveling to Los Angeles, Miami, Atlanta, and Jacksonville to source the drugs. One indicted suspect communicated with a supplier in China and had multiple kilos of drugs shipped to Brunswick from overseas. The drug trafficking organization was responsible for distributing large quantities of methamphetamine, MDMA, fentanyl, cocaine, crack cocaine, and marijuana throughout the area. So they were charged with variations of possession and intent to distribute a controlled substance. Some of them are facing firearms charges. An official said that they expect the 56th suspect to turn herself in. So that was a big successful arrest, but it shows that China is here causing problems because that's what they want to do. And I'd be willing to bet that a lot of this money funding these protests in Minneapolis and getting these signs made and all of these socialist communist groups are probably funded by China as well. Would not surprise me. So I get a feeling we're going to get arrest or some kind of report on that from the Trump administration probably soon. So that should be interesting when we get that. So anyway, an Ohio man was accused of threatening to kill random ICE agents and President Trump. And there have been a lot of death threats to President Trump and ICE agents, but these were deemed credible. So the man was arrested Wednesday in Trumbull County, Ohio, for allegedly posting online threats against President Donald Trump and other officials. 47-year-old Charles Bronson Ingram. Charles Bronson. WFMJ reported. So he posted these threats on YouTube along with a profile picture of Trump being shot in the head. Anyway, there has been an 8,000% increase in death threats against themselves and their families, meaning ICE. So this is not good. This is all violence stoked by elected Democrats and the media, because the media won't condemn Democrats for their violence. We just had Jerry Nadler, for crying out loud, talking about calling ICE agents hooded, masked hoodlums. He said masked hoodlums. They're coming up to grab you, he said. And he said something about, this is Jerry Nadler speaking, who's resigning after this year, talking about how it would be understandable if somebody thought they were being mugged by a masked hoodlum and shot them officers. So he was thinly veiled promoting the assault of violence on ICE officers, which is terrible. Vice President of the United States had some very harsh words about that, which you can read online on their official accounts. So anyway, Ruth, by the way, the guy that was just convicted in the plot to kill President Trump in the second assassination attempt that was thwarted, received life sentence plus 7 years, I believe. So I don't know all the details on that, but he's gone. He's gone. You cannot plot assassination attempts on anybody. So anyway, the next thing I'm going to talk about is a poll where it says nearly 4/5 of swing state voters, okay, back deportation of illegal alien criminals. That's 4/5 of swing state voters. Now that means all of the swing states support deportation of illegal alien criminals. Those are the same swing states that voted for Trump to deport illegal alien criminals. So nothing has changed with that. So that's what I was saying. We had the optics of these people roughing people up in Minneapolis, arresting them because they were being harassed. We had 2 people that got shot and killed. Unfortunately, nobody wants to see anybody get shot and killed, left, right, center, whatever. Nobody. And public perception of that is not good. So tactics have to be changed. And we never did this before. And this was something that I talked about on my walks before they even started these operations, before Trump was even sworn in. We had to do these deportations. We already knew the left was going to protest and make a big fuss. And it's about as big a fuss as we thought they were going to make. And fortunately, okay, we should be thankful that the 2 people that were killed were white. And I know it sounds terrible to say that, I am not glorifying it or saying I'm glad white people were shot. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that if they had been a minority, Minneapolis would still be burning, if you get my meaning. So that's why they probably said, maybe we need a reset on this because that could very well have happened, right? And then you would have had a whole race thing. Because as it is right now, it looks to me like most of the minorities are not even getting involved in protesting this because there's large support among the Black community. 74% of the Black community, according to a CNN poll with Enton, who does their polling, said that Black people support deportation of illegals. 74%. About 95% of Republicans do, and about 83% of Democrats do. So this is a universal thing, okay? And the same kind of numbers are there for voter ID and the SAVE Act. So public opinion is on our side, okay? This is even after what's happened in Minneapolis. While people support deportation, they do not support the tactics being used. Basically is what that means. About 46% think it's okay to do what we were doing, which is probably about mostly Republicans, I think. So anyway, we're going to do a reset on that. Operations will continue, are continuing. And another thing I want to talk about is, bring it up on my magic chalkboard. The biggest shocker for me this week, and this is really, really important. This could have been really bad, okay? 1,000 samples sent for testing for possible biological contaminants and nasty stuff. A lab was found inside a Las Vegas home, okay? 1,000 samples sent for testing to find out what these were. So this is being described as a possible biological lab with over 1,000 samples sent for testing to see what they are. So anyway, they searched the scene Saturday morning. Investigators saying that they're currently uncertain exactly what was found, but they found vials of biological materials. The investigation began as a code violation call, and they began to suspect that illegal medical-type biological research materials might be stored at the property. So the Joint Terrorism Task Force took over the investigation because this could be an act of terrorism, biological warfare, and things like that. Viruses, bad things, right? And there was a press briefing with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. So in the garage, investigators found multiple refrigerators with vials of unknown liquids. Still don't know what they are. They're being tested very carefully. Gallon-sized containers. Okay, so there was a centrifuge and other laboratory equipment needed to process pathogens. So anyway, there was a significant volume of material found in storage containers, vials of stuff, liquids of different colors and compositions. And so anyway, it's all being tested. And they want to keep everybody informed. So anyway, the person is identified as Ori Solomon, 55 years old, is believed to be a property manager at the location. So Solomon has been charged with felony disposal and discharge of hazardous waste in an unauthorized manner and remains in custody. 3 people who rented the room from the property owner were safely removed from the residence and are not involved in this investigation. So they just lived in an apartment they rented there, and now they're going to be homeless. The owner of the property was arrested, and the case led to a congressional investigation that found the illegal biolab had allegedly been receiving money from Chinese banks. Okay. So this lab is being funded by the Chinese, developing pathogens, storage of hazardous materials that we do not know what they are yet, in Las Vegas, linked to Chinese banks. Okay. The pathogen is labeled as being HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, COVID-19, and even Ebola. So it was housing thousands of samples. The items found in a Las Vegas residence were consistent in appearance with the items found and described in the Reedley, California lab investigation, which is what I just mentioned. So we have an incident with biological things that are bad, two different locations, same Chinese banks, and Chinese linked things going on. I mean, this is terrible. The potential for disaster from that is absolutely incredible, because they could set something up like this, come in, unleash something on America as a terrorist act, and by the time you figure out where it came from, how it got here, why it was done, you'd have hundreds, maybe thousands of people dead. Maybe even worse than that if it's like a really bad terrorist act. So there's a lot of really dangerous things going on out there in the world. And I'm very thankful we have an FBI that is on top of things, getting things done. And also, we have another UN agency cries poor. It's reported by Breitbart. Human rights chief despairs globalist group in survival mode. They're running out of money. They're running out of money. The WEF, the globalist cabal for the New World Order. The New World Order is crumbling. They're losing to populism because people don't want to be oppressed and told how to live and to kill their cows because of the climate and all this carbon tax and all this other stuff keeping people poor and mass migration. That's all orchestrated by these people. It's part of the New World Order. And there is a globalist cabal of very wealthy people who want to control the world. It's pretty evident by how everybody behaved during the pandemic for COVID. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm basing things on facts. I'm not going to say the COVID-19 pandemic was done intentionally by anybody. What I'm saying is that it did happen and it was exploited by these people regardless, okay? They wanted to have full control. And you think about that. Hillary Clinton was almost president of the United States if we had not voted for President Trump. She would have been president during COVID. I'm pretty sure our life would still be hell because of it. And they would have installed somebody after her. She probably would have got reelected. Think about that, right? So all of this alleged election fraud and problems. Remember, that's alleged, okay? I have to say alleged. I'm not going to say it's fact because I can't on here. But the election is being investigated right now. We saw a raid at Fulton County, and Tulsi Gabbard was involved, and that's because that's a matter of national security. Very important thing. Now, before Trump was sworn in on my walks, I had discussed explicitly and expressly that we were going to see a lot of stuff happen. There was going to be arrests, investigations, and that they take time. We might not see things happening for about a year, I said, because that was obvious. He has to come in, they start making changes, and he had to do the things with the tariffs at the beginning of his administration because of the time it takes to get that going between then and midterms, and then on his way out. There's a window there, and they had to do that first, and that's what they did. So now we're getting into the other things like the SAVE Act to save our elections. This is very important because they're going to do what's called a standing filibuster. And a standing filibuster is the way Congress used to do things, where politicians would have to get up and actually make an argument. Each one of them, they'd have to get up and make an argument. So the Democrats can't do anything about a procedural change that Republicans instill because there will still be a filibuster there, but it'll be a debate, a standing filibuster, which means Democrats are going to have to state their case and make their case. Because as it is right now, they can just vote against something and whatever press release they make is what they make, and it's propaganda. So with a standing filibuster, this person has to go out on the floor in front of all the cameras for the United States to watch on C-SPAN or whatever and make their argument on why we don't need the SAVE Act and how safe and secure our elections are and how voter ID is racist when 74% from the poll I saw of Black people want voter ID. 83% of Democrats want voter ID, and that's up from 60-something percent. And that's because the Democrats have been going out saying President Trump is going to steal midterms. So they have their people all stoked up on Trump's going to steal the election midterms. So now Democrat voters are like, yeah, we want voter ID. We want to make sure people aren't voting twice, 3 times, 4 times. Now all of a sudden, Democrat voters care about the elections because they're afraid Donald Trump's going to steal it. Whatever the reason is, the point being, we don't trust elections. Democrats don't trust elections. Independents don't trust elections. People that rarely vote don't trust elections. It's all rigged anyway. My vote doesn't matter. So basically, we need to establish election integrity through the entire spectrum of everybody in the country. So you get 74% of Black people, 95% of Republicans, and 83% of Democrats. Okay, that is basically an 80-20. There's no reason for Democrats to be against voter ID and the SAVE Act. There's no reason for it other than they want to keep illegals voting. And illegals do vote in California, and they do vote in New York, just so you know. And this would put an end to that. So we need to have census reform where illegals are not counted on the census, because all of these people in Congress or the Senate, the districts that they're in, are dictated by the size of the people that live in it, not whether or not they're citizens. So if you have half your county are illegal aliens, when they do a census, well, that adds an extra representative to Congress that wouldn't be there otherwise. So this is a big deal because California and New York represent very large chunks of the United States Congress. And this is a very, very big deal. So this is going to take a while to get all of this stuff done. We're going to have to wade our way through Democrat BS and the media. Thankfully, the media has lost a lot of its teeth. We're getting things done. It's slow. I get it. Just hang in there, guys. Good things are coming. Good things are happening. There are going to be arrests. They just arrested the 59th person for election fraud. So, not election fraud, I'm sorry, fraud in Minnesota having to do with fraud of tax dollars. So what's coming out right now is it's starting to look like the amount of fraud in California is starting to look like it's going to be absolutely monumental. Okay. We're talking about Medicare. We're talking about SNAP benefit fraud. We're talking about insurance fraud. We're talking about the bailout for the fires fraud, the bridge to nowhere, $18 billion bridge. They haven't built any bridge, not a stitch, nothing. $18 billion gone and nothing was built yet. So they're clearly funneling money somewhere. We need to find out where it is, and if it is fraud, which it's alleged, but my opinion is that it is fraud. So we'll investigate that and find out. And so we're going to have a lot of things to talk about in the future. We really will. And, the amount of fraud that's involved is mind-boggling. Just California. All right. Let's see. I got a little list here I'm going to bring up. Where are you? So while I bring that up, we have the weather here. I'll give you an update on my walks. For my walks, it's going to be very cold for the rest of this week. And then we're going to have kind of a warm up to mid 30s. And then it looks like this Arctic cold snap is going to be over for a little while. That's what it looks like. And the reason why I say that is the high temperature Sunday is going to be like 11 degrees here in Maine, Fahrenheit. That's the high temperature. And it's going to get colder tomorrow, even colder Friday. Saturday's cold. A little bit of mixed weather, snow and stuff coming up. And then next week it's going to warm up a little bit. And contrary to Punxsutawney Phil, it looks like we're going to have an early spring. I'm not convinced otherwise. And I'm certainly not going to put faith into a gopher as being the be-all, end-all of whether or not spring starts in 4 weeks or 6. So, looks like $88 billion has been lost in California. 88 billion, okay, with a B. $88 billion over different programs. Nobody knows where it is. Gone, my friends. So it's suspected between COVID relief, remember all the money? California is a big state. They got a lot of COVID relief money. And even Gavin Newsom made a claim for his vineyard and his wine business relief from the pandemic. $32 billion COVID relief payment fraud suspected in California. $32 billion. $24 billion unaccountable homeless relief. $24 billion was supposed to go towards homeless relief, to get people off the streets, in warm beds, fed, place to live. They were supposed to be building apartments in the Los Angeles area to house homeless people, low income. $18 billion for high-speed rail, where they haven't laid any track. None. Literally zero. They've not done any work. $18 billion cost to get nothing done. $2.5 billion food stamp fraud. $650 million for a 9/11 system that never worked. So this is all, a total of $88 billion. Crazy, crazy money. Insanity. It's absolutely outrageous. So anyways, my friends, we're just going to have to weather through all of this stuff. And, well, this was a live stream. I had one person viewing, nobody else was viewing. I don't have a set time to do this. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if I like doing live streams. I do much better when I'm just on my walks and things flying off the top of my head while I'm walking. I just do much better that way. So we'll see how that goes. But as it is right now, I prefer talking during my walks as opposed to doing lives. Somebody recently told me they like the live better, which I don't know why. I mean, live things would be better. Things like assault style rifles, fun things like that. It's unloaded. So this is one of my favorite rifles. This is a Ruger Mini 14. Excellent rifle and fully adjustable. Anyways, my friends, God bless you. God bless President Trump. Say a prayer for the country. And keep your family protected. Second Amendment belongs to everybody to own legally, okay? I don't know what the rules are in your state, but to legally own and possess firearms, which is a constitutional right every American citizen has or should have if you don't have it. So anyway, with that, I'm going to say see you later. Thank you for being here. And, well, I guess that's about all. Anyways, my friends, this has been fun. I still like doing my walks and talking better. And so anyway, I covered some things I wanted to talk about. And hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, well, I apologize. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.